Stoicism isn't a philosophy of gaslighting you. It's a philosophy of realizing the truth about things, and then slowly over time making tweaks and adjustments and addressing underlying understanding so that things don't upset you as much. What upsets people is not things themselves, but their judgments about the things. For example, death is nothing dreadful, or else it would have appeared dreadful to Socrates. But instead, the judgment about death that it is dreadful, that is what is dreadful. So when we are thwarted or upset or distressed, let us never blame someone else, but rather ourselves. That is, our own judgments. An uneducated person accuses others when he is doing badly. A partly educated person accuses himself. An educated person accuses neither someone else nor himself. Epictetus, from his handbook, his manual, and that is paragraph 5. So I've been rereading Epictetus, of course, as one does on a casual Wednesday. And I noticed something in this that initially caught me as contradictory. And I don't know if you would have caught it like I did. But it says that last line there, an uneducated person accuses others when he is doing badly. A partly educated person accuses himself. An educated person accuses neither someone else nor himself. And I thought, well, wait a minute. Doesn't Epictetus say that the dichotomy of control, that which is up to us, that which is not up to us, doesn't that sort of imply that when things go badly, that we have a role to play in that? And in addition to that, how can you be partly educated and accept that you have some role to play, and then be fully educated and realize that actually, I don't have any part to play. I'm not going to really blame anyone. I'm not going to accuse anyone. So I'm going to get to that. But I want to thoroughly examine this paragraph from Epictetus. And that first line there, it's a very, very powerful idea. What upsets people is not things themselves, but their judgments about the things. My God, if you can sum up a line of wisdom that's so helpful in daily life when people get upset, if you can just realize this and carry it with you, a lot of your anger, your frustration is just going to fall away. Really hard to do, though. It's really hard to do this in practice. But the first step, of course, is just realizing and understanding this. That whenever you get upset, you know and you understand that the reason I'm upset is not because of this or that. It's because my opinion of it, my judgment of it. Now, you might catch yourself saying regularly things like, I'm upset at traffic. Or you might even be so bold as to say, this traffic is making me upset. This traffic is making me so angry. And I'd encourage you to really think about how you phrase things, because when you say that, the traffic is making me angry, what you're doing is you're externalizing something. You're blaming the traffic for you being upset. And it's a very natural thing to do. We say, perhaps someone that is upsetting us, right? We say, you are really making me angry. We externalize it. You are making me angry. We have a slow computer at work and we say, this computer is really frustrating me. What should we be saying? Well, Whenever you catch yourself externalizing something, you should rephrase it. You should reframe the situation. You should say, this computer is not making me angry. I hold an opinion that a slow computer is a bad thing. Therefore, that is making me upset. I am making myself upset over this thing. You could say, I am upset over this traffic. You could say, I am upset about the things you said. And this is really important because it's not to invalidate what you're feeling. Stoicism isn't a philosophy of gaslighting you. It's a philosophy of realizing the truth about things and then slowly over time making tweaks and adjustments and addressing underlying understanding so that things don't upset you as much. In a sense, you could say when you say something like, the traffic is upsetting me, there is truth in that. Like, that is true because you are not maximizing your agency. But if you were, if you knew what is good, what is right, like Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius tells us, if you know the good, you would know that, no, actually, I am making myself upset about this because of my opinion on it. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're not allowed to get upset about things. It doesn't mean you're not allowed to get frustrated. It means that you have to accept that you don't have to be frustrated. One of my favorite quotes from Marcus Aurelius is, you don't have to turn this into something. And I find myself telling myself that pretty frequently because you might see something small happen at work or at home or your partner or friends, and your initial response is, I'm gonna make a big deal out of this. Maybe you see a glass that's dirty that your partner forgot to put it in the dishwasher, and you think to yourself, God, I gotta tell him or her about this. Like, I gotta bring this up, right? And maybe you do. Maybe if that's a consistent issue, and maybe if your partner's not pulling their weight in the kitchen cleaning, maybe you do bring it up. Not saying you don't address interpersonal relationship problems. But again, to Marcus Aurelius' point, you don't have to turn this into anything. Like, it's up to you if you turn this into something bad. Some people enjoy cleaning. You can look at a glass that wasn't put in the dishwasher and you can think, oh, well, what a blessing because now I get to tidy the space. I know that's kind of a weird thing, but some people are actually crazy out there that enjoy cleaning, so it's not as crazy as you might think. So, understanding that and being able to remind yourself about that throughout daily life as things come up and upset you is so important. It's a very important step in Stoicism. I don't think it's a step that you never fully complete. I think the understanding of the concept is great, but then just being able to practice it is really difficult. And it's also something that you don't want to hear. Who wants to be told, you're upset about something that person said, but, really, that's you. That's your opinion. You're holding an opinion that is upsetting you. They're not saying something that's upsetting you. Like, you're externalized. Nobody wants to hear that when they're upset. But it's the truth. And the truth is often difficult. And the truth is often a source of suffering until it ultimately releases you of your suffering. What a terrible, terrible truth in and of itself, that truths are often painful, but ultimately they reduce pain over time. Epictetus goes on, he gives the example of death. I don't quite like his example there, or else it would have appeared dreadful to Socrates, meaning, well, if Socrates wasn't afraid of death, then therefore death cannot be necessarily bad. We don't know. Maybe Socrates had some kind of medical thing. Maybe he had some kind of psychological disorder that made him not be afraid of death. Like, you don't know. That's an anomaly. That's one person. However, if we are to believe in Stoicism, we would also consider death something that is not up to us, and therefore, how can it be dreadful? And it's also natural. And it's also, again, something that you can have an opinion on, good or bad. Hey there. Let me thank you for being a listener to this ad-free podcast. If you enjoy the podcast, there are a few things you can do to help me out. A 5-star review on Spotify or wherever you're listening to this really does help, and it's free. You can also sign up for my Substack newsletter or Patreon. Substack free gets each episode emailed to you along with the transcripts in the form of an article. You'll also get access to my live talks, followed by a Q&A afterward. Substack Premium supporters and my patrons on Patreon get access to the recordings and a brief article of those Q&A sessions, access to full episodes of the Paradoxically Speaking podcast, my Steps to Success interview series, Stoic meditations, and much more. Links to Substack and Patreon can be found in the show notes. He continues, so when we are thwarted or upset or distressed, let us never blame someone else, but rather ourselves. That is, our own judgments. An uneducated person accuses others when he is doing badly. So he's talking here about people that don't know any better, the unwise. People who have no idea that actually it is our opinion about things that upset us, not things themselves. And you'll see this everywhere. You'll see it at work. You'll see it in your friend group. You'll see it out in society. People that just accuse others of all of their problems. It's always blaming someone else. It's their fault. It's my parents' fault. It's my mom's fault. This is why I am the way that I am because my dad said this to me when I was 7. This is why I am self-conscious because 3 years ago, somebody made fun of me for that. People that are very unwise, and I say that with compassion because we should have compassion and empathy for unwise people because they're suffering and they don't know how to get themselves out of it. So it's a form of compassion here. I'm not judging them. But these people, nevertheless, always externalize their problems. They're always saying it's their fault, it's your fault, it's my mom's fault, it's my dad's fault, it's this computer's fault, etc. And what a lovely thing to think. Because if you believe that, if you really believe that all of your problems are caused by things other than yourself, then you can sit back on the couch and suffer in your life without any motivation whatsoever to actually fix your problems. It's cowardice. It's unwise, and therefore it is cowardice. And it is cowardice because people like that do not have the courage to face their problems, to own their problems, to say that I am actually the reason for my suffering. But is that the ultimate way here? Let's continue. Again, this is where the perhaps contradiction comes in. A partly educated person accuses himself. So Epictetus isn't even saying the wise person accuses himself. He's saying the partly educated person. Only the person who is understanding the philosophy of Stoicism and they're starting to implement it and they're trying to figure things out and they're getting angry and they're blaming themselves. Only those people they're partly educated and they accuse themselves. Meaning there's a progression in this idea of the Stoic philosophy in which you move from someone who is blaming everybody else and everything else for your problems to someone who starts to take ownership over their problems. And that's a very, very hard thing to do. I don't even know how people do it. I really don't. Can you imagine anyone would have the humility to look themselves in the mirror and say, you are the one responsible for all of your problems. It's me. It's all on me. And that means it's all on me to do it. And that means I have to work my bloody ass off in order to fix all of my problems. Can you imagine the amount of humility and self-growth and the ability to let your ego just be destroyed? All of that takes for you to actually do that, to take ownership over your problems. Again, I don't even know how anyone even does it. Yet people do. There are people who are not perfect Stoics by no means, but are on that journey of learning about themselves and trying to improve. So how is it then that Epictetus ends with, "An educated person accuses neither someone else nor himself." So, what he's saying here is a sage, or someone who's very close to being a sage, they don't blame anyone. They don't accuse anyone. They don't accuse me or you or their parents or society or culture or their laptop. And they don't even include themselves. They don't even accuse themselves of being a source of the problem. So, what do we make of that? What does that even mean? How do you go from owning your problems to all of a sudden now you're not even blaming anyone? And like many ideas in Stoicism, there's a bit of a paradox here. I mean, there's so many paradoxes in here that myself and Josh Bertolotti from In Search of Wisdom started a podcast called Paradoxically Speaking. We did 2 seasons on it. And there's many more paradoxes that we haven't gotten to. But the paradoxical thing here is that once you reach that sageism or close to being a sage, you're getting pretty developed in stoicism. You come across and you really solidify in your mind this idea of amor fati. And what amor fati is love of one's fate. And what that means is that no matter what happens to me, I'm okay. No matter what happens to me, I am okay. And so if you're an educated person, meaning you're a wise person, meaning if you're wise, you're also courageous and temperate and just, and obviously stoic in the context of Epictetus's writing. If you're an educated person, if you're a stoic, almost a sage perhaps, you don't run around looking for other people to blame for your problems. And you also don't blame yourself for your problems. And the reason is because you don't really consider anything that happens to you a problem. Death is not a problem if you're a sage. Suffering is not a problem if you're a sage. Physical suffering, physical pain. Losing your job is not a problem if you're a sage. Why would it be? It's an indifferent. Losing a friend. Getting cancer. God, getting cancer is not a bad thing in Stoicism for a Stoic sage. Think about how crazy that sounds. Nevertheless, the Stoics say sickness isn't indifferent. So, how we should be looking at this, in some sense, paradoxical idea from Epictetus is that there's different paths to the Stoic journey. There's not even close to Stoicism. There's someone who hasn't even seen the light at all. People who blame all of their problems on other people, and I'm sure you know some examples in your lives. And then you have someone who starts to get an inkling for wisdom. They start to improve upon themselves, and they start to knock down their ego, and they start to really work on themselves and put all the blame for their own problems on themselves, and that causes them to fix a lot of their problems. But once you fix a lot of your problems, and once you solidify these ideas of stoicism into your mind, once you are someone who is educated, who is wise, temperate, just, strong, courageous, you become someone who just, for lack of a better phrase, you become someone who just drifts through life. And you're focused and you have a goal and you're moving, but really you just become someone who experiences life. If you're driving on the street and someone happens to stop too quickly in front of you and you try and slam on your brakes, but you end up smacking someone's bumper, the Stoic sage gets out of their vehicle and they go, oh, okay, well, I mean, what are you going to do? It's done. It's already done. It's already in the past. Not much I could have done about it. What do I do now? Oh, well, I call my insurance company. I talk to this person. I try and be kind. Maybe I throw in a joke. We exchange information. I smile, I wish them a great day, I get on with my day, I go to the car dealership, I spend $1,000 to get my car fixed, even if it's the only $1,000 I have and I was saving that up for a trip. Well, life happens. This is what it is. It is what it is, man. Am I going to be upset about it? No, I'm not. I refuse to be upset about it. I'm not blaming this person in front of me. I'm not blaming myself. I'm just reacting to the situation that's in front of me. That's where we should all aim to get to. What a place to be. Can you imagine if you could just go through life and everything that happens you're just at peace with? You're just at peace with. Now, I got maybe a minute or two to wrap this up, and I want to wrap it up on a bit of self-compassion here, self-empathy, because another way that you can look at that phrase by Epictetus is that an educated person, someone who is wise, someone who is really wise, and you know wise people, they don't beat themselves up over their mistakes. They learn from them, they move on, they try and course correct, they fix their behavior, but they don't beat themselves up over it. And so, a wise person, if you know someone really wise and they make a mistake, they fix it, they apologize if they need to, and then they do something that my great great Aunt Mabel used to say, they get on with life. They get on with life. And so, maybe this idea of self forgiveness, of moving forward, of not beating yourself up unnecessarily, maybe that's the Stoic ideal after all. And maybe the wisest among us, the most educated among us, in addition to forgiving everyone else for their transgressions, for their mistakes, maybe the Stoic sages among us also don't judge themselves either. And man, what a wonderful way to be.